So, my name is Adrian Nantchev, and this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So, this podcast is all about finding people from all over the world, whether entrepreneurs or not, to share with you their story, their journey, their experience, who they are, and what they believe in. So, today I have with me Monique L, in fact. So, please, Monique, tell the world what's your story and why are you doing?
All right. So, where do I begin? I guess I start at the turning point, the biggest turning point in my life. So, born with two chronic diseases, and one of them is a central nervous system disease. And when I was 19 years old, I came home and I got one of the really bad migraine attacks that this disease is causing. And it causes also epileptic cramps and some other fun stuff. So I came home and I had one of these attacks. And while I usually be able to handle those, at that day, I thought like, man, this is going to kill me seriously. So I called my parents and I told them, could you just come over here within 5 minutes and bring an ambulance because I'm not sure whether I'm going to make it. And they might have just thought that was a joke, but I was actually serious about that. And so they arrived, and within the next, I can't even remember, like maybe 2 minutes, I actually died of a cardiac arrest. And I've been clinical death for 25 seconds, as it turned out later within some tests. And I had a pretty rad out-of-body experience. So I was flying towards white light and became even brighter and lighter, and it was so disturbing white that I literally didn't want to fly into that. So it felt like I'm gonna die. I mean, I was dead. So, but I knew in my subconscious that I will not survive if I'm going to be in this white, bright light. So while I was flying towards this light, I saw a lot of memories of my life snipping up and just popping into my vision. And I was seeing that for like a second or two. And really only one of those memories I can remember clearly. And it for like many, many, many years, it's been the most ridiculous memory because it was only, it was literally a fight with my ex-boyfriend at that time, and I broke a rose over his head. So for me, it has no meaning, or didn't have a meaning to me. Yeah, fast forward, I obviously survived that cardiac arrest, and when I woke up, the first heartbeat was so painful that I can still remember how my chest hurt for 2 weeks. Now, I was 19 years old. A lot of other things were going on in my life, and it took me, honestly, about 2 years to understand that this day was the turning point of my life to change a lot of things in my life. So from this day on, I literally decided to not people please anymore. I was earlier in my life trying to please everyone, to make everyone happy, to be liked by everyone, because it was a nice feeling to be liked and not have trauma around me. And so yeah, I changed that part. I didn't do anything anymore to please anyone. I was like, no, I'm gonna go and do what I really want and what I feel like doing. And this obviously caused a lot of trouble and trauma since people around me were not used to that. And I also stopped taking a lot of BS from people around me that treated me bad, as in work-wise, friendships, family-wise. And so I just cut off connections in whatever matter. And so this day of my life was the most painful, not painful, that's not true, I had a lot of painful days, but the most horrific and the best day of my life, because it was a second chance, and it literally helped me to restart my life. it took me, as I said, a few years to actually understand it was that day, and also to make everything better, to change, to understand what I have to change, to like break my old patterns and to implement new habits. That obviously takes a long while. You can't do that in one day, but it helped me to reset my whole life. And yeah, I'd say that's one of the best days in my life so far. And this is how it's also started in the direction of my life right now.
And why are you doing what you're doing now?
So that's a good question. So I'm a turnaround specialist now. That's what I'm doing for my living. On the other hand, I'm a women's rights activist and a coach for women who have been through abuse and sexual violence. On the other hand, and I do this work for free as in my paid forward project that's called Unlimited You. So a turnaround specialist, obviously throughout my whole life, I had a lot of other experiences as well, but this experience of this clinical death was literally the turnaround point in my life. And I use all my life experience, but I do also have leadership experience. I have certifications for team leading and everything. So I use this to help unconventional leaders, may it be a CEO, may it be just a team leader in a big digital marketing agency or whatever, or may it be a business owner or entrepreneur. I help them to turn around their lives when they feel stuck and get them out of their situations and literally help them do what I have done with my life, not only once. And with my Paid Forward project, I help women who have been through domestic abuse, through sexual violence, any kind of violence or abuse really at all. Since I have experienced that myself as well, I've been through rape when I was supposed to be healed by a doctor when I had a very horrific spine injury. So I was 24 years old. I was working really hard in one of the team leader positions, and I was overworking myself. And through an old car accident injury that I had, this injury flamed up again and caused me a really, really bad spine injury that cut off my spinal cord. I couldn't walk anymore. So I had to find a therapist, and it took me month over month to find one that could actually help me with this specific injury. So I finally found one after 4 months being on morphine, being like caught in bed. I couldn't get out anymore. I got fired from my job. I lost all my friends, and finally got a therapist. And his first session was super helpful. I was finally able to walk, to actually walk out of there without having to scream or to cry in my head. And so I went back and obviously trying to get more help from him. And the second session, all he was doing was raping me. So that was one experience that I would not want to experience again, obviously, but this was one experience that brought me to where I am today. I've worked through this without anger. I've been very blessed to say that I have no power whatsoever that I can give him anymore, though this person has nothing to do with me anymore. And only this 2 minutes that he was taking power over me has impacted me, but everything else I've worked through. I've forgive this person, even though that my court sense didn't get through in Germany. It didn't matter because I was not attached to the outcome. But now all this everything around this experience I want to use to help women who had to go through this as well. So these are those two experiences that come together to bring me to this point where I am today, being this turnaround specialist and women's rights advocate as well, to help women who've gone through violence or sexual abuse.
Well, that's quite a lot of experiences. That's pretty. That's a lot of stuff to talk about. That's sorry to hear about the rape and the therapist. That sounds quite not very good, not very nice at all.
Yeah, that's fine though.
I'm just curious, very very curious about that. Were you not awake when this was happening?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So going back a little bit, you talked about how this near-death experience, out of body, and all the rest. Have you heard about the astral plane at all, or what can you tell me about this light that you've experienced, all these memories? Because what comes to mind straight away is people talk about how the light flashed before their eyes. Is that what happened to you?
Yes, exactly. So I literally still have everything in mind how I experienced it as if it was yesterday. So even though it was 11 years ago, I still have this feeling sometimes of being in this moment. It sounds weird, but it's not as I would die again, but it's still this kind of feeling that comes back. So when I blacked out, so I have been unconscious many times because of my disease. So I knew being unconscious, how that feels like. But this way of blacking out, as in my heart stopped beating and me as my soul would leave my body, that was totally different. So I could literally feel myself, as in me, my soul, leaving my body, and everything was light. I wouldn't feel any weight. You know, if you're like sitting or lying down, you can feel the weight on you. And there was no weight anymore. It was just nothing. It was probably that's how it feels like to swim in the Dead Sea. I can imagine that could be a similar feeling. So it was just light, weight, no weight at all. And then I would kind of floating towards this light. So some people that I've spoken to, they experienced a tunnel. And for me, it was like a white room. There were no walls. It was no limitation. It was just white around me, and it got brighter and brighter. You may know this like strobo lights in discotheques, and when they first start, they're usually a little bit that sounds weird, dark white, and then they become brighter and brighter. And this is how it felt like. So the sooner I got to being like, can I say finally dead? It sounds so weird, but like completely dead, as in not being alive at all anymore, because there's still a part alive if you're clinical dead. So that's obviously how you can come back. But the further I got into this light, and the closer I got to the brightest point of it, the more it felt like I'm gonna lose the connection to my body and my soul. And yeah, I had this life moments flashing up totally.
Can you elaborate on the losing connection with your body and soul? Can you elaborate on that, please?
So how would I explain that? So when you lose your body, it's literally, you could look back and see yourself laying there if you would want to. So it's your subconscious being still awake, but your body is not there anymore. So your mind is still working, but your body is taken away from you. So it feels a little bit like in a dream. In a dream, you feel light and you don't have a weight on you, right? So whatever you do, you can fly, or you can just jump over endless distances. So in your dreams, you don't have a body weight. So this is how it feels when your soul and your body are not connected. But when I went closer to this light, I felt like that as soon I would touch this light or would get into this white light, like literally sucked into this light, this would mean that my soul would be shut off, as in like I wouldn't be able to talk, think, say, see those light flashes anymore. So this is how it felt for me, that I know as soon I would get sucked into this bright white light, that this would be the end of the story. I can't explain that better. I'm sorry. It's just the way how I experienced it.
That's right. Very fascinating. But then, why do you think that you could remember all of this?
Because it's in our subconscious, right? So the thing is, you do indeed experience that. It's not like it's not something you make up in your mind. It's a true experience. Obviously, I don't fly into a white room with my body, but like it's similar to a dream. So I was talking with my neurologist afterwards, and he explained it similar to a dream. So what happens in your dreams is that your subconscious is working through things and issues, problems that you've experienced within the past few days, maybe even weeks, but you haven't consciously figured it out or worked through. So things that are going on in your mind, but you don't consciously approach to work on it. So it could be stress at your workplace, for example. Maybe your boss is bullying you and you don't want to go and solve it yet because you're afraid of what's the outcome, but you're thinking about it all the time and you're afraid to go to work the next day. You would dream about this or have a dream that is connected to this. So it could be any fictionary dream, but still it would be connected to the same situation. And the same happens when we are having an out-of-body experience. So you go through a subconscious experience of your mind. So your mind shows you this live flashes, this memories flashes, and they actually mean something, but you obviously need to figure out, if you want to, what it is. Took me a while.
So what was it that you were facing? What problem were you not absorbing into your consciousness?
At this time, it was definitely that I have not lived the life that I wanted, that I lived a life for everyone else.
Oh yeah, because that goes into a people-pleasing habit.
Yeah.
I'm just curious very quickly, you mentioned that all of this was a cause of a disease with regards to your central neurons. You mentioned there was 2 chronic diseases. What were they, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, sure. So one of them is the central nervous system disease. It's called migraines, but if I say migraines, everyone thinks it's headache, which is not true. Migraines are a central nervous system disease that is a disorder from your neurotransmitters and also your serotonin levels, and it has a lot of things to do, but it is a central nervous system disease that is causing different things. The migraine attacks are one of those. I had also epileptic cramps with them, and that's why my heart got like cramped up and stopped beating because of one of those epileptic cramps. The second one is a chronic kidney disease. So my kidneys have several issues. I was born after the Chernobyl the Chernobyl accident in the Ukraine. And in East Germany, we had a huge atomic fallout. And so when my mom was pregnant the second month with me, this huge fallout caused a lot of contamination levels that were 700% over the levels that would have been still healthy. And so because in East Germany, the government would made a secret out of it and didn't tell their citizens what was going on, people were eating contaminated veggies, drinking the milk, all this kind of stuff. And so the kidney disease is one outcome of the Chernobyl accident and causes still several issues now.
Well, that's quite quite an experience, and this ultimately led for you to get rid of that people pleasing behaviour and habit. What was wrong with that habit? People pleasing. What was wrong with it? You were putting other people first, way ahead of your interests and priorities, or what was so wrong with it?
In short, everything is wrong with people pleasing for me. I have now implemented a no BS tolerance rule in my life. So that means, for example, if people giving me any opinions that I have not asked for and they're not important, as in, for example, my close friends or families, I'm not going to listen to that. I say, thank you, thanks, that's nice for giving me your opinion, but that's all it. I have experienced a lot of toxic people around me at workspaces or friendships around, close friendships that try to interrupt the relationships between me and my friends, whatever. So it's all kind of toxic people that I cut out. I don't try to change myself or hide myself for people anymore. I've been bullied most of my life for my chronic diseases and the outcome of it. So the things I have to do, the things I can't do, the things I have to do differently, there's a lot of things that I have to, like, it makes me a weirdo it's just in other people's eyes that are healthy and they don't know what's going on. And I've never talked about this because I got bullied anyways, and as a child being told like I only want to have attention, and I would make up diseases that are not even there because you can't see them. You can't see kidneys that are not working. You can't see your brain that is not functioning right. So you can't see all of that from the outside. And I do look like a normal person and I try to behave like a normal person. But then if your brain is suddenly having an attack and I just literally faint in front of people and wake up and I can't talk anymore, even though I try, then people do think I have more than a psychological problem rather than a brain disease, right? So that was a big part in my life, and I stopped doing that. I stopped excusing myself for having to leave parties. I stopped excusing myself for being at work and having to go outside for 15 minutes or something. I stopped trying to be someone that I'm not, as in a healthy person. I am, for my chronic diseases now, very healthy. I've increased my lifestyle and everything to a maximum, but that was all my own work, and it started literally when I decided to do what I want and not to have to live on other people's terms.
And speaking of lifestyle and other people, you said earlier that you cut off a lot of connections after this experience. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. So especially, for example, in my college, we had like work groups that we had to form, and sometimes the teacher would tell us whom to work with, but there are just people that would obviously think bad about me or would talk trash about me. So I would literally tell the teacher I'm not gonna work with them. Not for the reason of not being social or something, but just because it was fake and I knew they would not try their best to collaborate. Also, I had 3 side jobs in college to pay my college and my living. So I changed one of those jobs when one of the bosses would like sexual harass me. He did that for a while, but I thought like I have to take it because they pay me. So sometimes you've been told, like in Western society, we get told like, it's your fault because you drink too much, or your skirt is too short, or your smile is too bright, or whatever. It's anyways the woman's fault if she gets sexual harassed. In average, not everywhere, but it's an average opinion. And so for a long time I took it because I thought like, well, they pay me and it's a job and it's so hard to find another one. And whatever excuse there was, so I just went there one day and I was like, you know what, you're just, and then I threw some swearing words at them, and then I just left and didn't take that anymore because there was no reason why I should stay. I found another job as well. But there's a lot of things that I started to understand they're not good for me. They're not healthy. I don't need to take this. I don't, I should even stand up for it so they would maybe understand they do something wrong. So yeah, there's a lot of things. And friendships obviously as well. If they're only my friend because they want something from me and I help them all the time, but as soon I end up in hospital and I ask them to bring something for me and they can't even make time to do that within a few days, then I obviously don't need people like that in my life.
And speaking of helping, tell me about this turnaround specialist and what does that entail and what do you do, and also how that relates to your women's rights activism.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a program that's in 3 steps. So the first step is the recovery step. So I help people to actually recognize their wake-up calls or their turning points. So which would be for me the clinical death, for example, but could be also a burnout, could also just be like someone who has like a flu for 2 months and can't get rid of it. So usually they're like signals that our body or our environment gives us, but we like to push the snooze button on it. So we don't have to take care of them, or we think they are going away by themselves. And obviously it's usually a sign from our life to show us we have to change something about it. So when we're, for example, in a 9-to-5 job and we just can't get along with our boss, they are treating us really badly, which is unfortunately very common. There are several options what we can do, right? So we can approach this and we can try to change it within the company, we can change the job, or we can go into our own business. So there is where I'm getting in, and I help people to find their own way, what they want to do. So do you want to stay in this company because you really love to work there? Do you want to do your own business because this is what you actually want, but you haven't been brave enough to do it yet? Or do you want to change your job, but you think you can't get one because you don't believe in yourself? So that's the first thing we do. And then I go through a little recovery. So it's like each month has like a topic. It's recovery, resiliency, and redesign. So the first month would be recovery. We go through a few steps to understand why they had this wake-up call and everything, and then get out of this situation. Then the second part is the resiliency month, and so we build up mental and physical strength to not fall back into the situation, but also to help them in the future for any setbacks, to get through there in a better mindset and everything. So we build mindset strengths, we build a better approach to different problems, we help them find easier solutions, and we build up a whole set of routines for them if that works. And we talk about like habits and patterns. And the redesign part is then the best part, I think. We are helping, like we as in me and myself so far, but I'm helping my clients to break patterns, to redesign a lifestyle that they really want to live. May it be in an own business, may it be in a new job, may it be like part-time job and a side business, like anything that they really want to live, we are going to work on and redesign their habits and patterns for it, and then go step by step through action steps and plans that they will need to literally take the action they need to do for making it happen. And so this is a 3-step program that I've created to make sure they not fall back somewhere in this process. And yeah, together with this paid forward project. So I've decided to work for free together with organizations that work in either women's rights or especially sexual violence and abuse topics. So I'm in Thailand right now, where I'm cooperating with sexual trafficking organizations. We're just in discussions how we can work together. And I've been a part of the latest Asia Pacific Feminist Forum, where I got in a lot of, so I gave free empowerment coaching there for the women. And I talked with a lot of corporations in India and Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka to work with them in the near future as well. So what I really do is I'm actually catching them at the part where they get help already. So if a woman, for example, was sex trafficked, she gets out of there, gets help by an organization with accommodation, education, then I'm coming in with my mindset coaching for them, helping them to get out of this victim mindset, bringing them into an empowered survivor mindset, and help them to actually live the life they deserve, not being stuck in this mindset of, I've been in this victim mindset, or I've been victimized, and that's it. So, yeah.
So you also mentioned briefly that you have this thing called Unlimited You. What is that all about?
That's what I just explained. Sorry, that's the
okay.
project. Exactly, yeah.
I see, interesting. So, you mentioned like Asia and all the rest. Am I right in thinking that you're in Chiang Mai?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
As a quick side note, I'm just curious, what's the rationale for being over there in Chiang Mai? I heard that it's a great place for entrepreneurs or digital nomads to live and work.
Yes, 100%. I'd reckon it's the digital nomad hub of the world so far. I know that Medellin in Colombia is catching up now, and I've been in Medellin. I can confirm that. It's a great environment there too. Here in Chiang Mai, you have a whole bunch of people that are either freelancer, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, business owners, or upcoming any of those, and they get together, and the community is great here. So they have meetups, as in not from the website, but they self-organize a lot of get-togethers, free workshops. There is this one group, it's called Nomad Coffee Club, and every Friday they meet and have fantastic free workshops and talks from people who have already successful built kind of an online business or an entrepreneurship somehow. And it's amazing because if you want to, you can leverage all knowledge here for free. I have built, together with another friend, a mastermind group here, and I'm with 4 other people in a mastermind group that is going on since 6 weeks now, and it's amazing. We literally push each other forward. We can help each other with different knowledge-based skills, and yeah, it's crazy. And it's all for free if you want to. You can also get really good people working for you, obviously, and pay them. So, but yeah, it's an amazing place to be.
And in relation to living in Asia and to what you're doing with regards to activism, you mentioned feminism in the context of Asia. What's the pressing problems over there, and how does that compare to feminism, say, in the States or in Europe, or third wave or second wave feminism?
Mm-hmm. So I do have to say that I think feminism has a really bad reputation. So whenever I talk with other people about feminism, I do get the feeling, and sometimes even they tell me, that they think feminists are men haters, and they're just really, I can't even explain that, but men haters would be probably the best word. And this is not feminism. A feminist is really someone, could be any kind of person, any kind of gender, any kind of believer, literally, that believes in equal rights between men and women and for any other gender. And let me tell you, there are so many genders out there, I can't even count them anymore. And that's fine, because I don't want to tell people what gender they want to be. So that's totally cool. And this feminism is also kind of covering that part of gender topics mostly. So it's really not about women's right, but it's the whole topic of being equal in general. So yeah, in Asia here, in comparison to Europe, you might think, I mean, I'm from Germany, you might think Germany has a lot of equal rights between men and women, but looking back at how it actually is, it's just we are presenting us better in those kind of rights that are not there. So I think just because we're living more free in Germany and we don't have a super how would I say that? A religion that is a monopoly in our country, in Germany. This makes it easier for everyone to live free, I think. So don't get me wrong, we do have a religion, obviously, in Germany. We do have traditions based on that, and we do have obviously some rules, but I'm from East Germany and we have free body culture, so we go naked to the beach. And living in Berlin, I lived in Berlin almost for 6 years, and it's just plain normal that you, as soon the temperature goes over 20 degrees Celsius, everyone is taking their clothes off, and you see girls and boys just underwear sitting in the park, and maybe only in panties, because tanning stripes are not that cool in Germany. We're all whiter, so we need a lot of sun. So compared to Asia, I think is a little bit stronger, because the rights in different Asian countries for women are even less. They're not able to live as freely as, for example, in Germany or in the UK. I have lived in the UK, it's similar, and I lived in Spain. In Spain, it's also very similar. Walking in a bikini through the city, it's totally fine. And I mean, if you do that in Asia, that's an issue, right? You can't just walk in a bikini through the city. So like a short tank top or whatever, there are Asian cities you can't do that at all. You have to cover your knees, you have to cover your shoulders. If you're a tourist and you don't do that, you might get in trouble. And that's totally fine, as in being respectful and everything. But if it comes to, for example, burqas, hijabs, and so to cover your hair, to cover your whole body, your face and everything, in different Asian countries like Sri Lanka or any other countries where Muslim, for example, is the primary religion, it's still an oppression for women to do that, and it's not a choice. And this is the difficulty. If they choose to wear that, that's totally fine, wonderful. No one's going to say something. But if they're oppressed into wearing it, that's not how it's supposed to be, right? So this is not a right. So the right is if you can choose to do it. And so this is what they're fighting for. And also, for example, in the Philippines, it's really cruel. Under the new president, there are legal killings of others, and this is something really crazy. So if you're a woman right defender, you you are in the risk of being imprisoned and later killed, which I think in today's world, shocking. It's just shocking. And so this is what we're in Asia for. Yeah.
Just going back a little bit, those some connection errors. You mentioned that the new something in the Philippines, what, the new premiership or the new president or prime minister? New, what was that exactly?
Yeah, the president. The president. Sorry, yeah.
Right, okay. So, going back a little bit, you mentioned the free body culture in Germany. I've heard about this culturally accepted like nudism in some parts of Germany. I thought it was more in like the countryside or the towns as opposed to the major cities. And that's interesting. Personally, I've got nothing wrong with nudism. It's like it was natural, isn't it? Natural body and all the rest. So, I didn't know this thing was quite common in Berlin though. And you mentioned that you need to get more sun, so they won't go completely naked.
No, they're gonna have a panty, and underwear, but that's it. No bra or something. Not all of them, but it's quite common. And not only in Berlin, you can see it in Munich and like all kind of bigger cities as well, where there's no ocean, because we're quite far from water. So, yeah.
And also, you mentioned the burqa in some parts of Asia is it's no choice; it's compulsory. You said that. Is that a feminist issue in Asia that you're tackling, or that something you've highlighted?
So it's not an issue that I'm going to be tackling because I cannot talk about it from my own experience. But it's women that I'm supporting that want to face this issue, want to tackle it. In Pakistan, for example, in the big cities, it's okay to have the hijab only, which is the head scarf. But in the countrysides, they still have the burqa, and they don't cover them. If they don't cover themselves all the way, so you only see the eyes, then they can get in big trouble. But it's just very oppressing and obviously decreasing to a woman to have to wear that if they don't want to.
Why do you think that is? That is degrading. Why do you think that is?
Well, how would you feel if you have to cover up everything? I mean, I think that's not even a question. The degrading is obvious. They're gonna hide women so no one else can look at them. It's a religious tradition that is in our times. If the women in these traditions and these religions say that this is not acceptable, I do believe that it should not be still an obligatory rule.
Yeah, I understand. And yet, do you think it's incompatible where the feminism in the West is saying that these kind of things are empowering, or wearing it, or being or having to wear it? That some of them are projecting it a good thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Do you mean, for example, Pakistanis who live in the US are saying that, or who is saying that?
Well, I want to say people like Linda Sarsour, or what the general consensus is over there, but I'm very curious what your thoughts are.
Right. Well, I can only speak from what I've heard and what I've seen. I've been in countries like in Dubai and Abu Dhabi where I've seen fully dressed in burqas, and they had to walk at least 15 meters behind their husbands or any male companionship. And to be honest, that was never a sign of empowerment to me. They were never looking up. They had always their head down, like never facing someone. If you feel empowered by wearing it, you would have your head up. You would have contact with other people. I think you would wear it with pride, if indeed that would be empowering to you. I do feel like people who are talking about it in that way might be people that have not experienced it themselves, living far away from the world that is actually having those rules. And see, when I talk about it, even me, I can't talk about it from a place of experience. I can only, as I said, say what I saw and what I hear from those women. And there are women, they want to wear this, but also as a safety for themselves. But most of them, they wish they wouldn't have to, wish that they could just walk out with a hijab if they want to, or just leave it. I don't think that empowerment is the right word for wearing a burqa. Yeah.
I see. Fascinating. But Monique, as we begin to wrap up this podcast, going back a tiny bit, you mentioned something like monopole in Germany. What was that exactly?
Sorry, that was the when I was talking about living a little bit more freely, because none of our religions are a huge monopole that would kind of limit us. Because we do have Christianity and like evangelist and Catholic Christianity in Germany, but it's spread all over the country, and it's not something that you compulsory have to be. So you've been born, and whenever you're old enough, they show you a comic Bible and be like, do you like that? If yes, go to church. If no, leave it. That's kind of how it works. Maybe not. It's just a simple way.
So there's a big separation of church and state.
That's a good question. Yes and no. Maybe it's more in my mind. No, because our taxes are split and we pay to church as well, but only if we are a church member. So it goes together as well. But I don't think it's so very common influence in our tradition, only in very small parts. So in the south of Germany, usually everyone is Catholic. But then in a lot of parts in Germany, it's very common that you are not a church member, and no one would tell you like, oh my God, that's horrible, you have to go to church. That's not what it is. It's widely accepted to not be a church member.
I understand. But Monique, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
And what is the best way for the audience to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so it's either my Facebook page, it's called Unlimited U. The U is only one capital U, by Monique Lindner. That's my surname. Or my website, you can find me under my full name, moniquelindner.com. It's Lindner. It's an old German name.
Yeah, whereabouts in Germany? You mentioned Chernobyl, so Eastern Germany, but then you mentioned Berlin. Yeah. So what, East Berlin?
No, I've been born in Dresden.
Right, south. Okay.
No, that's very east. It's in the middle.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's right at the Czech Republic border. It's literally the Middle East of Germany. Yeah, so it's Dresden. I've been living there for like 19 years before I left and lived in the UK, and then in Spain, and then later I came back to live in Berlin for a bit before I left for good.
Yeah, I was going to say Prague, but I was thinking what's the country, but yeah, okay, that's the one. But yeah,
yeah,
cool.
Exactly.
But Monique, it was great. It was great having you on the show, and I'll include your links in the show notes below.
Thank you so much, Adrian. It was a big pleasure to talk to you.
So, thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen at home, if you haven't already, click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification right next to it, because this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So go out there today and do something remarkable with your life, because that is what it's all about.